The film opens with a girl getting into a car with her father, Nguyen Ngoc Minh, or Quan, the owner of a Chinese restaurant in London. He is taking her to buy a dress for the evening. In a hurry, she leaves the car before he finishes parking. As Quan steps out after another car bumps into his, a powerful explosion tears through the street, injuring many, including Quan himself, and destroying the shop where his daughter had just entered. Sometime later, an anonymous call is made to a news desk. Journalist Onwood answers the phone, and the voice on the other end claims responsibility for the attack on behalf of the militant wing of the authentic IRA, giving their secret password. The IRA refers to the Irish Republican Army, a paramilitary organization. Onwood immediately reports this to his editor, and the newsroom switches to covering the breaking story. That evening, a reporter takes photos at the scene and notices Quan mourning his daughter. Meanwhile, members of the group discuss the bombing. One of them asks the leader how many casualties their operation caused. The leader replies that it may have been 3 times more than expected, and that it should serve as a lesson. Someone suggests fleeing back to Ireland, but the leader forbids it, saying that all Irish people in London will now be under suspicion, so it is safer to lie low. The next morning in Belfast, Northern Ireland, Liam Hennessy wakes up beside his mistress, Maggie. He receives a message from his wife, Mary, telling him that the IRA has claimed responsibility for the bombing. Mary then calls her husband, asking where he spent the night. Liam lies, saying he was at a meeting, but she sees through it and tells him not to make a mockery of her. Later, Liam arrives at a political meeting. On the way, he speaks with a British minister, insisting that, as Deputy Minister for Irish Affairs, he believes it is necessary to release imprisoned IRA members as a step toward peace. At the meeting, he argues that the bombing was not carried out by the whole IRA, but rather by rogue individuals, and that it looks like a provocation. Others point out that the caller used the group's password, which means it must indeed be someone from within. They conclude that there is a traitor in their ranks and decide to search for the mole. Meanwhile, the British counter-terrorism unit SO-15, led by Richard Bromley, tries to identify the bomber through physical clues, such as a scar or a mark on the hand. At that moment, Bromley's secretary informs him that a Chinese man has been coming to see him every day for the past 5 days. Richard finally agrees to meet him. Quan explains his situation, and Richard tells him that the police are doing everything they can. Quan offers him £20,000 in exchange for the names of the perpetrators, but Richard refuses. That evening, Quan sees Liam's interview on television and learns that he was once an IRA fighter himself, taking part in similar attacks, although he now publicly condemns such violence. Later, Quan is visited in his room by his restaurant employee, Lynn, who urges him to at least eat something. The next day, Liam's secretary informs him that a Chinese man is trying to contact him. Liam answers the call, and Quan immediately demands to know who killed his daughter. Hennessy insists he does not know, but Quan presses on, provoking his anger until Liam slams down the phone. In despair, Quan burns old photographs, a newspaper clipping from 20 years ago about the murder of his 2 elder daughters, as well as a picture of his recently killed daughter. Lynn walks in, worried, and says she will stay with him, but Quan hands her the documents to the restaurant, telling her that it now belongs to her, as she has always been a loyal friend. The woman makes up a place to sleep on the couch, but when she turns around, she realizes that Quan has already left. Quan purchases various supplies from a store and disguises his van with the logo of a garden company. A few days later, he travels to Ireland and walks into Liam Hennessy's office, carrying a bag of groceries. He asks to see him. The guards want to throw him out, but Liam orders them to let him in. In the office, Quan demands the names of those responsible. Liam replies that he has not been connected to the IRA for 30 years and has even served time in prison for his past activities. Quan raises the tension by asking how Liam would react if it were his own daughter who had died in the bombing. After that, he sarcastically thanks him for the reception at the minister's office and slips into the restroom, where he makes a homemade bomb out of improvised materials and nitroglycerin bottles. Moments later, an explosion rocks the building. No one is injured, but Liam immediately understands. It was a warning. He instructs the police not to make noise and to tell the press it was a gas leak. Almost immediately, Quan calls him, demanding that he find the culprits faster, and hangs up the phone, making his threat even clearer. Hennessy contacts his nephew, Sean Morrison, a former soldier, and asks him to urgently fly in from New York. The next morning, Quan continues making explosives from the supplies he purchased. Meanwhile, one of Liam's guards sits in his car at the parking lot, but a colleague stops him. His vehicle has been rigged with a bomb. It turns out to be just a dummy meant to frighten them. Liam orders a sweep of all rented houses and hotels and insists they find that Chinese man. Hennessy's men launch raids to catch Quan, but they do not realize that it is impossible to fight Jackie Chan in a room full of furniture. Quan uses the environment with ease, dispatching trained fighters and escaping unharmed. Liam is left in shock. The old man has managed to defeat his professionals. His wife asks what is happening, and he tells her to pack her things. They are moving to the countryside. Sean arrives and meets with Liam. Hennessy instructs him to travel to London and meet Richard Bromley to let him know they are willing to turn over the IRA members responsible for the bombing and will do everything possible to help find them. Meanwhile, Liam visits his mistress Maggie in a restaurant. As they kiss, he suddenly receives a message from Quan, a photograph of their embrace. At the meeting with Bromley, Sean explains that the IRA's passwords have been updated. Each leader has been given a unique password. When the next bombing occurs, the terrorists will have to use their password, which will help identify the traitor within the leadership. Meanwhile, Liam and his wife Mary arrive at their countryside estate, guarded around the perimeter. Liam is confident they will not be found here, but Quan has already built a hidden shelter in the nearby forest. That night, Quan sneaks onto the estate, plants a bomb in the garage, and knocks out 2 guards. Liam demands more security, while Mary declares that she is going to London to be with their daughter. She reproaches her husband, saying, "I remember a time when you knew how to deal with problems like this." Back in London, the group prepares a new bombing. Liam's mistress Maggie chats with journalist Onwood in a bar and makes his acquaintance. The next morning, another explosion shakes the city. One of Liam's guards is injured. His men realize Quan is watching them from the woods. They send out a search party. To draw them in, Quan lights a fire. The fighters spread out and approach from different angles, but one after another, they fall into his traps. Still, the head of security manages to shoot Quan in the shoulder, forcing him to retreat deeper into the forest. Liam concludes that they need a tracker, someone who can play by the same rules. He calls again for his nephew, Sean Morrison. Meanwhile, in a London hotel, Liam's wife Mary is doing her makeup. There is a knock at the door. It is Sean. It becomes clear they are lovers. Their moment is interrupted by a call from Liam, who informs Sean that Quan has struck again and wiped out his guards, and urges his nephew to return to Ireland at once. After the call, Sean reveals his plan to Mary. The new password system will help them identify the true ringleader. Mary replies bitterly that she is angry at Liam because he never avenged her brother's death, even though in the past he himself never shied away from violence. At the same time, Quan cauterizes his wound with a knife and collapses in exhaustion. In a fevered haze, he recalls the tragedy of his past. When his family fled China for England, pirates attacked them. His daughters were captured, assaulted, and killed before his eyes. Meanwhile, Liam receives a classified file on Quan. It reveals that he once served in an elite deep reconnaissance unit, was the best sapper, and a master of ambush tactics. One of the IRA leaders, Hugh McGrath, comes to Liam and expresses his displeasure. Hennessy has forced inspections of all his explosives warehouses. McGrath insists that he has nothing to do with the bombings and accuses Liam of becoming too soft, reminding him that in the past, he himself had no objection to such acts. Liam replies sharply that now he is doing everything possible to achieve peace between Britain and Northern Ireland. After McGrath leaves, Liam calls for his dog, but finds it unconscious. Out of the shadows steps Quan. The dog is alive, only sedated. Quan again demands the names of the terrorists. This time, Liam admits that indeed, someone within the IRA is behind the attacks. He tells Quan about the password operation. Quan gives him 24 hours to provide the names. The next day, Maggie steps off a bus, and at that moment, a bomb explodes. 16 people are killed. Bromley calls Liam and informs him that this time, the IRA announced they would not use any password. Instead, they confirmed their responsibility by naming the exact amount of explosives and the type of device used. Bromley warns Liam harshly, "Either someone tipped them off, or you are lying to me. Only 2 people knew about the passwords." Liam, shaken, tries to make sense of the situation. His bodyguard tells him he followed his wife, just as ordered. He reports that she had a meeting with Liam's nephew, Sean, and afterward went to the lobby and called Hugh McGrath. Sean arrives in the forest and begins searching for Quan. Meanwhile, the terrorists prepare a new attack, hiding explosives inside a laptop battery. The SO-15 team identifies the organizer of the first bombing by a burn scar on his hand. Reviewing surveillance archives, they discover that several months earlier he met with McGrath. Richard Bromley calls Liam and tells him that the man behind it all is Phil. Phone tracking shows McGrath arriving at Liam's house. Bromley orders him to extract the names of all participants within 30 minutes, or a tactical team will come and arrest Phil. Liam's reputation would be destroyed due to his association with him. Liam conducts the interrogation brutally. To make Phil talk, he shoots him in the knee. Phil gives up the names of the operatives. Among them, Liam sees the name of his mistress, Maggie. Phil explains that he planted her with Hennessy on purpose, to keep him under control. In rage, Liam shoots his other knee, strikes him with a pistol for involving his wife, and kills him. At the same time, Maggie spends the night with journalist Onwood. While he steps away to the bathroom, she swaps the battery in his laptop, planting explosives inside. Sean finally locates Quan's hideout. A fierce fight breaks out between them. Quan gains the upper hand, but when Sean regains consciousness, he admits that the names of the terrorists are already known. He tells Quan, and Quan spares him. Sean returns to Liam. His uncle says, "Only you and I knew about the passwords." Sean realizes that Liam knows he was with his wife, and admits that he told Mary about the password switch. Apparently, she passed that information to McGrath, while Sean had simply been manipulated for details. Liam concludes his nephew was used and orders him back to New York. The next day in London, the SO-15 team prepares to storm the terrorists, but Quan reaches them first, disguised as a gas company worker. The militants grow suspicious, search his bag, and find weapons. A shootout erupts, mixed with hand-to-hand combat. Quan kills all the men, leaving only Maggie alive, and escapes just before the assault begins. When the special forces break in, they find only her. Under interrogation, Maggie reveals that a bomb has been planted at the airport and will detonate in 9 minutes. The police rush to the airport and find an unsuspecting Onwood waiting for his flight. They seize his laptop and throw it into an empty jet bridge. The device explodes, but no one is harmed. The bomb is neutralized. After interrogation, Maggie is executed. Soon after, the British minister calls Liam and informs him that they have evidence of his ties to the terrorists, and it will soon be published in the press. He is now completely under their control. Later, Onwood visits Mary, Liam's wife, and kills her. When Liam returns home, Quan is waiting for him. He accuses the politician of being part of the conspiracy, since among the terrorists was his mistress. Liam protests, insisting that Maggie was planted to compromise him, but Quan forces him to send the photo of their kiss to the internet. Now, everyone will know about the politician's connection to a terrorist. After this, Quan returns to his restaurant. The SO-15 team track him on surveillance cameras, but Richard Bromley orders them not to touch him. We owe him a great deal. In the finale, Lin, the restaurant worker, greets Quan with joy. Tears well up in his eyes. He has finally avenged his daughter.